Hello everyone, the Kentucky Patriot here. Gotta go ahead and throw out this disclaimer. If you hear any noise in the background, that's little Sadie here. She's not quite so little anymore, but she's still active, and I can't make any promises of what she will or won't do throughout the course of this video. But I'm gonna try to get right into it as quick as I can, because this can be rather lengthy of a topic, but I think it's an extremely important topic that I think most people don't really think much about, or if they do, they don't take it real seriously, or they don't really think it's going to happen to them. And that can happen with concealed carry too. But what I want to talk about is basically prepping or being prepared. And I've made a video or two in the past talking about prepping and being prepared. But New York Prepper asked me to do some more videos on prepping, and I really appreciate that. I was really humbled. That really meant a lot to me that he'd think enough of me to ask for my opinion or my thoughts or my inputs on the topic, because he's got a lot of great stuff out there on prepping. But when you talk about prepping, I think a lot of times people automatically assume food, water, shelter, and that's a huge part of it. And I think also we were kind of looked upon as, I don't consider myself a huge prepper or an expert at prepper, or the end-all be-all prepper, but I do think that preppers in general was kind of looked down upon, or kind of made fun of, or kind of the tinfoil hat guys, or kind of conspiracy theorists, or kind of the whatever. But here recently, I think people's eyes have become open, and even people that normally, whether it's guns or whatever, didn't want guns, or didn't have guns, didn't own guns, didn't necessarily like guns, are now wanting the guns, now wanting ammo, now thinking, maybe we should prepare. And I've got questions from people that normally have known me for years that never asked about any of this stuff, and starting to ask about it because of the day and times we're living in. And I've always said, for years, it's better to need it, or to have it and not need it, as to need it and not have it, okay? So just being prepared doesn't mean you have to live in a bunker, or be an outcast in society and live 400 miles away from the nearest neighbor or anything like that. It's just being prepared, and that's kind of one of the things I think I'd like to bring to the table, because a lot of guys have made really good videos, including New York Prepper and a bunch of them, on some thoughts on food and water and different resources to get. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I'm going to kind of broaden the horizons here a little bit too, because I think prepping is more than just, like I said, what you think of just immediate food and water. But I do think we need to be realistic in our food and water. And the big thing I hear is, I'm going to grow my own food, and that's great. We garden, and Dad's got a garden. We love to help him, and my little boy, he'll literally jump out of the car at Mom and Dad's and go check the garden before he goes to see his Mom and Dad. He wants to check the garden, loves the garden. So garden's great. I have no problems with gardening, especially if you can, but you have to understand, if you're thinking about gardening for survival, you can't plant a seed today and get food tomorrow. That's not how it works. And really the true, when the stuff hits the fan, if you've got a garden and people starving, looters and trespassers, and I'm not trying to belittle anybody or talk down to you. Please don't think of me as giving you a lecture, but I do think people is unrealistic a lot of times, even in gardening. They'll live on a quarter of an acre in a subdivision and think that they're going to garden for food survival, or they're going to hunt. And I don't mean the way it sounds. Hunting can be a great tool, especially if you own some property or got a farm or a bug out place. But if you live in the city, or you live in a suburban type America, where all your neighbors live in these little lots, all of you aren't going to go out and just hunt and have plenty of resources for everybody. It's just not realistic. And I think that happens a lot of times when we got to look at situations realistically. And the same thing with water. I love Life Straws. They're awesome. I own them. I think they're great to put in your backpack if you're going hiking. And you say, well, I don't need that for hiking. But if you've watched Paul Harrell, he's talked about when you are out and you don't mean to stay, but you end up having to. And it happened to him. He had to stay one night. He didn't mean to, wasn't planning on it. So you never know what might happen. So if you want to throw a Life Straw in there, I recommend it. Life Straws are great. But if you have 2 or 3 Life Straws and that's how you think a family of four is going to survive if things really get bad, I think it's unrealistic. You need to have a water source, and water sources may or may not be more important to certain people than others. What I'm saying is, if you live on a farm and you have a spring that runs by and you've got a way to boil that water and that spring never runs dry, that creek never runs dry, whatever, it may not be near as important for you as if you live out in Arizona. I mean, you have to have, and you can't always just depend on the rain. So being prepared, I think, in multiple ways, and it's not just you. A lot of times you still have somebody, even if you are single, even if you do live alone, there's still probably somebody you have to look out for. There's still probably a grandkid or a mom or dad or grandparent that's elderly that you still may have to think about as well. So being realistic in how many people is in your party and what you're capable of doing. And I mentioned in a video the other day about ego, and I'm not trying to be, again, discredit anybody. And Paul Harrell made a really good video about it as well. Give a shout out to those guys because I appreciate him too. But he used a little bit different terminology than I use. But what I was talking about was ego. And I think our ego can sometimes get in the way of what we're really capable of doing. And what I mean by that is, people think they have, like, Paul said, skills that they don't really have. You see what I'm saying? I mean, whether it's hunting or fishing or trapping or being able to do these things, and even self-defense as a person. I don't mean to, try to come off as a smart aleck or anything, but when you got these guys that's never trained in martial arts, never had any kind of combat, military, police, any type training, they've watched a couple of UFC fights and wear a tap-out shirt, and they feel like they can handle themselves. That's not realistic. It's really not. And they think they're going to go out and take on 2 or 3 combatants and save the day and put on their bug-out bag and walk out in the wilderness. It's really unrealistic, and I'm not against a bug-out bag. I've talked about bug-out bags. I think they're important, but we've got people, and even Sun Tzu said, if you know your enemy and know yourself, you know for the results of 100 battles. But I don't think we're realistic about ourselves, what we're really capable of. And I think there's people that's got a bug-out bag that thinks when the stuff hits the fan, they're going to put this backpack on and walk out in the wilderness and survive for 3 months. And I'm not saying you didn't learn how to start a fire in the Boy Scouts, but even starting a fire when it's wet, or if it's been raining, or if it's really cold. Trying to, we had an ice storm here. You don't ever know what condition the weather may be. Trying to start a fire, really be able to make shelter. And when you say, well, I've been camping all my life, and I love the outdoors. And I'm not saying anything negative against camping, but if your idea of camping is pulling a camper with an air conditioner and a TV and a satellite and a stove and running water, that's not camping, guys. And it's not even close to, I guess it is considered camping, but it's not even close to a real world scenario of surviving outdoors. And you think, well, I'm going to be able to hunt and do all this. Well, how are you going to start a fire to cook? Do you have stuff to cook with? Are you going to be able to provide a family of 4? So I think if the stuff really hits the fan, we really need to think about our own personal protection, because I don't want to sound like an alarmist, or I'm trying to make something bigger than what it is, but I want you to understand something. And we all kind of laugh and shake our head, but it's really not really very, very funny at all when we see it every year. They'll have a Black Friday special, whether it's a gaming system or whether it's a big screen TV or whether it's a Cabbage Patch doll back in the 80s, where literally whatever the hot item is, the doors will open and people will be trampled, and there'll be fist fights, and there'll be, literally, we had a pandemic that had nothing to do with a shortage of toilet paper. What happened is people just panicked buying and just got the toilet paper and was literally, you've seen it on Facebook and probably laughed about it, but they were fist fighting over toilet paper. So that's how society is. And here, that's just toilet paper and a Cabbage Patch doll. What about when people start going hungry? What about when people start going thirsty? What about when society breaks down and there is no 911 to call? We have to be able to realize that things can get really bad really quick, and I hate to sound this way. We should be able to try to take care of our neighbors, help one another, but we also have the potential of threats that we didn't realize was a threat. And what I mean by that is maybe the guy that you see passing, he's your neighbor, somebody you've known from years ago, or somebody that there's a neighborhood cookout that you see him at and you're all friends with. if he starts getting in a bad way of hunger or water or food or whatever, and he thinks you've got it, hey, he may not be your buddy. So you got to watch about who you trust, who knows you have what. And that's why even some information on this channel that I said I'd never give out, like how much ammo I have, how much guns I have. I don't care to talk about prepping, but I don't even tell you all my prepping plans because, you don't want to, tip your hand. I mean, you got to have a plan A and a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, because things aren't going to happen like you think you're going to happen. And even in The Art of War, he talked about the atrocities of war. People we've kind of glamorized it, with video games and movies about war. But until we really understand the horrors and the atrocities of war, the same thing, until we've really been in a survival situation, it's not going to be a camping trip. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be terrible. And we think it can't ever happen to us. But look what happened in Hurricane Katrina, when literally gangs were running the streets and it was survival of the fittest. And there was helpless people in there getting raped and murdered, and it was a terrible situation right here in the United States of America. And I'm not talking about a doomsday nuclear holocaust type. I'm talking about the breakdown of society, the power grid. I mean, we've seen where the pipeline got hacked. I mean, things can happen with the electric grid. Things can happen with weather. Things can happen with natural disasters. Food shortages. And I don't want to sound like I'm gloom and doom and wanting to scare you where you lay awake at night and worry. All I'm telling you is, when it comes to prepping, be realistic. If you have to go a month, how much food do you have in the pantry? And if you look at your food in the pantry and it's all milk and yogurt and cheese, guys, and if you don't have electric to keep it cool, do you have a means to prepare food, to cook food, to clean your hands, to wash, soap, water, means to get water? Ways to prepare food, ways to store food. Are you going to plan on bugging in or bugging out? And I think you need to have a plan for both. I've talked about this a little bit in other videos. But even if your plan is to bug in, and that's the goal. If you can, you're better off there. Your home is your castle. The problem is, what if there's forest fires like there was in Tennessee? What if there's forest fires like there was in California, where you don't have a choice? You have to leave. And that's when you need to have a backup plan for your bug out. And I believe another big mistake, I'm trying to make this video too long. Really, I probably need to do like a series of just on food, just on water, just on self-defense, just on preservation, just watch, and something that I do for a hobby. And it's not that I need to. I love it. It's forage. I forage year-round for different foods that I know grow around here. That's something you need to get familiar with. I'm not saying you can live off of it. That's your go-to move. But if you are going through the woods, knowing what you can and can't eat in times of travel or whatever the case may be to sustain you, it's very important. Some of it's very good. Some of it's very nutritious. But y'all still got to be careful, especially in some parts of the country. There's certain mushrooms or whatever that look like this mushroom. This one's edible and perfectly fine. This one's can be deadly. So you have to kind of know what you can and can't eat. But I think another huge mistake I hear people make is they're going to go to state parks and they're going to, I don't think that's a good idea per se, because I think that's everybody's go-to. Everybody you talk to, they're going to the state park and they're going to set up here because of this. If that's all you got, that's all you got. And if you live close to a state park, you have no means of transportation, that may be something that you can still try to do, is fish or something. But I think we really need to even look ahead if things really get bad. And I'm not trying to, again, sound too gloom and doom, but even if you go to a place like that and you fish and you're carrying fish back with you, it's very possible somebody could hurt you, rob you, kill you for your goods, because they're hungry too. Their family's hungry too. I mean, a breakdown of society isn't what Hollywood proclaims it to be, or the guy that's and I'm not being a smart aleck, but never been out in the woods in his life, never been in a self-defense confrontation, really isn't a very good marksman, isn't able to really fish or trap, never had any experience with the outdoors, that literally thinks he's going to take his Rambo knife with a compass on it, with 3 matches, his backpack, and go through the woods. And I will try to close with this, and please don't think I'm hypocritical because I don't eat everything that I should. I do not exercise like I should. But I do think it's important to maintain a certain amount of fitness to be able to, whether it's flee a situation, whether it's run, whether it's help carry somebody else, because it might be your child, it may be your loved one that you need to help carry, that somebody's wounded. And I don't mean it the way it sounds, but you've got guys that's got a bug out bag that's 80-pound, looks like a rucksack, that they've got everything in the kitchen sink on there. And I understand being prepared is important. Now, if you're just carrying it out to your vehicle and throwing it in your vehicle, that's one thing. But if you've ever hiked much, and I don't mean walking around a quarter of a mile at your walking trail at your local park is hiking, but I'm talking about hills, especially here in Eastern Kentucky. We've got a lot of hills. And if you've ever been on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mile hike with a 20, 30, 40-pound backpack, it adds a whole new dimension to it when you start going up steep hills, when you start climbing. And the more you have on there, the more you realize, wow, this is and you think, well, 5 mile hike, I can do that with my eyes closed. Well, if you've not done it in 25 years and you've not done it with any weight on your back, you'll be surprised. I can tell you, as a 20-year-old, and I'm in I'll be 42, my birthday. I can tell a big difference. And if you're not used to hiking with weight on your back, if you're not used to going up and down hills, you're going to, I think, be in for a rude awakening when you really need to hike 6, 8, 10 miles with weight in a distressed situation up and down hills, and maybe try different kinds of weather. I said all that to say this. There's a lot of avenues you can go with in prepping, but everybody's going to be a little bit different. Everybody's got a different amount of people in their household. Everybody's got a different amount of ages. You may have a 15-year-old child that may be a huge asset to you when it comes to, you may have a 15-month-old child that is not going to be able to be an asset to your party. You're going to have to give extra care to in travel. And you know what I'm saying? As a 15-year-old, you can say, hey, get me this. A 15-month, you may have to, so your situation is going to be different. The place you live in is going to be different. Everybody's situation is different. But we really need to look honestly at ourselves and take a good look and say, hey, you know what? I'm talking about me here, but I need to, probably tell my kids a little more about what we're going to do if this happens. Get them aware, not scare them, but just say, hey, I want you to know how to do this, in case we ever need it. Just do it like that. In case we ever go camping, do it fun, but still, in case they have those skills, in case they ever do need it. 2, need to get in a little better shape. I love hiking. It's that time of year. We've already been some. Plan on going more. I enjoy hiking. I enjoy backpacking, and just do a little more, eat a little better, just maintain a certain amount of fitness where we can do these things, have a few plans in mind. And, self-defense, I think, is a huge portion of preparing, because here's the thing. If something happens to you, then something happens to your chain of your circle, your group, your pack. So if you're out, you may be the greatest provider ever was, but if your family knows nothing and something happens to you while you're out there, then they can't survive. So everybody kind of needs to be on the same group. Everybody needs to be on the same page. You need to be able to, I believe, handle yourself physically, whether it's with a gun, a knife, your bare hands, because we never know what situation we're going to be able to find in. The more you know, the better off you are. And I don't claim to be anything. I just want to learn every day. I just want to be better than I was yesterday. I want my draw to be better. I want my shots to be more accurate. I want my self-defense to be better. I want my physical appearance to be better. Not for a GQ magazine, but that I can get the job done if I need to. If I need to, like I said, drag somebody out, and I won't go into details. I don't think I'm trying to make something a hero of myself. I won't. But we've seen a school bus hit a car. Or actually the school bus stopped, and this car didn't see it. I don't know if they were texting or what, and they ran into the school bus. And the woman was scared, and the airbags deployed and all this stuff, and it ended up not being smoke, it ended up being steam, but we didn't know at the time. So I jumped out, and her car door was stuck. So I had to rip that car door, back where we could get her out. And of course, we got her out. She had a broken nose, beat up, but she was fine. Of course, the school bus, the kids, was all fine because she ran into the school bus, and her car was a lot smaller than the school bus. But had that broke out in flames, had something else happen, we need to be able to. Wouldn't it have been awful if I couldn't get the door? If you can't, you can't. But I don't want it to be because I didn't prepare, because I was too lazy to go off the couch and exercise, because I didn't want to. And whether it's a self-defense situation, whether it's with a gun or knife, things happen to. Navy SEALs unfortunately pass in combat. So the amount of training you have, still things can happen. But the more training you have, the less likely that situations are going to get to where you can't get out of them, you can't escape, you can't make a way. So what I'm saying is, whether it's food, water, shelter, just think of some plans, think of some ideas, talk with those that are close to you, not the neighborhood. This ain't a group text that you got on your neighborhood group where your subdivision all has a chat. I'm talking about your wife, your husband, your sons, your daughters, who lives with you, maybe a mom and dad, and just kind of have a network of, if the grid goes down, if our cell phone goes down, rally points, blah, 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 and just have a few things in mind where, if things go bad for a week or two or a month or two, that you're not sitting here thinking, what am I going to do? Why ain't 911 answering my call? I don't have food. I don't have water. Oh, I wish I'd have listened. I hope it rains so I don't die of thirst. Hope it don't get too cold so I don't freeze to death. All I'm telling you is the more you have, as far as planning and resources, the better off it's going to be for you. Again, I don't want it to sound like gloom and doom, but I do think it's very important, and I do think people take it lightly, and I do think people think they can do a whole lot more than they're actually capable of. And I've seen it, and you have too. People, they're going to go on a 5-mile walk with you, and you get halfway there, and they're just wasted. They're done. They can't, And I understand, but if that was in a survival situation, that you'd be in real trouble. People think they can, garden or hunt or whatever their skills are. Their skill set really isn't. And now's the time to learn. Now's the time to improve. Now's the time to gain resources. Now's the time, if you don't know, YouTube it. Ask somebody talk to somebody. Learn. Knowledge definitely is power. And the more we know, the better off we're going to be. I didn't mean to make this video too long. Like I said, there's so many avenues I can go with this. This isn't rehearsed. I didn't think I've got some talking points. I literally just took this idea, sat down, been extremely busy. So it's almost midnight. So I'm just sitting talking to you as a friend. But I hope this helps you. I may try to make a series or go to other avenues, but I'll also tell you something. The dogs can be a huge help in this situation. They can watch out for you. They can help protect you. But you also need to provide for them too, because all the assets they still consume resources, and you can't just have food for your family and say tough on the dogs. Not only as a dog lover, but we treat these animals as assets. As watchdogs. Bullet, my German Shepherd you've seen on here, he's got a job. And he's a great dog, loyal friend. I love my buddy. But he watches out for me, even in hiking. I know it sounds silly, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but he'll turn around and make sure I'm behind him, and I'll point which way to go. We're buddies. He watches out for me like a hawk, and dogs can be a huge asset to you. But you need to take care of them too as well. It's a huge, broad topic. I hope this helps. I know I threw a lot of information at you, didn't go into a whole lot of detail on any of it, but really, this isn't to belittle anyone or make you feel stupid or like you can't do stuff. It's just we need to be honest with ourselves and see the places that we're weak in. Even something as simple as sports. If we examine a basketball game, you may do great on offense, but your defense and rebounding is terrible. That's what we need to work on. If we're going to win, if we're going to come out, if we're going to do better, and this is practice, this is training season, this is this is summer camp basically. This is the time when things are green, everything's going okay, just to go ahead and prepare. Don't wait till there's ammo shortage to get ammo. Don't wait till there's no toilet paper and say, I need toilet paper. Don't wait till the resources are gone, then hit the panic button. Just kind of be honest with yourself, evaluate yourself, evaluate the situation, see where you stack up. Think, if I don't have any electricity or water for a month, what am I going to do? Can I survive? And if the answer is no or not very well, go ahead. You don't have to spend $1,000 on these meal preps or whatever the store, but just as you go, just kind of say, that could be useful. That little bit of medical there would be useful. You know what? I need some more of this. That wouldn't be bad to have. And just as you go, just kind of prepare. Just kind of use your mind. You got a good head on you. Use it. Gather resources. And I wish you and yours the very best. I hope and pray nothing ever happens. But if it does, these are just good tools to have in your belt. Anything you'd like to see, anything you'd like to video, anything you'd like us to talk about, discuss, we think the world of you guys, and when you care enough about us and think enough of us to make a video like this, it just really humbles us and blesses our hearts. So a certain video, round, caliber, any shooting videos you want to see, targets, whatever the case may be, prepping, our thoughts on whatever, opinions, comments, anything you want to see in a video, throw it out there. We'll be happy to do our best to accommodate you. Like I said, my kids are in sports, volleyball, soccer, karate, you name it, basketball. So it's really busy times. I'll do all I can to get these videos out as quick as I can. Appreciate your patience. Appreciate you watching us. Wish you and yours the very best. Also, in case Facebook it's not stable, YouTube's not stable platform for us, these kind of channels. Reloaders Network, check us out over there. You'll be surprised of all your friends you'll find out on the Reloaders Network. My buddy Loads of Bacon is over it. So he's the moderator, so you don't have to worry about getting banned because you say the word reloading or kicked off because you fire a gun. It's a great family ran channel, the Reloaders Network. Check me out over there. May God bless you, the Kentucky Patriot. Signing off.